If you're looking to get 100 or more listens in that first 7-day period of you launching your podcast, then this is the video for you. I'm going to be taking you through a case study of how I've just helped a podcast that's recently launched do exactly that. Now, if we're meeting for the first time, then hi, my name's Liam. I'm creating videos about podcasting, content creation in general, and also I'll be moving on to online learning in the not too distant future. So if that's of interest to you, then hit subscribe and join me for the journey. But getting back to this particular video, I was recently given the privilege to speak with both Ben and Ollie, two fantastic guys who are creating a podcast called Going In Deep, and they asked me to join them for the journey, and I've been super privileged and super buzzing to get involved with this project, not because it offers me the chance to actually work on something I love doing, that being podcast editing and content creation for it, but also because what they talk about is right up my alley, and it's something that I'd listen to and have been listening to even though I've edited the podcast itself. Now, before you start thinking, Liam, is it that you have downloaded and listened to that podcast 100 times? Absolutely not. I've just been listening on my source files, testing out various players once it first came live, but I promise you we got 100 listens in that first 7-day period. And I'm going to talk to you about the planning that we did and some of the tips and techniques that you can use to do the same. Now, first off, you need to know your subject matter and you need to know the topic that you're going to be talking about. It's really important that you do this because it will help you when you're creating, firstly, the name of your podcast, which is really important. You're going to need to have some kind of description about what your show's going to be about. And then once you've got your name, also creating some really eye-catching artwork. So when your podcast is listed in the various directories of choice under the various subcategories, which should also be relevant, then you've got a great chance of attracting new listeners that you're unaware of. And I think this has certainly helped us with the Going In Deep podcast because we've received listens from various countries, not just in the UK, where most of the social media following that Ben and Ollie have is located. So once you've got your podcast idea and you've started getting the wheel in motions in regards to a name and artwork and things like this, you then need to think about the recordings of your episodes, and I'm going to have created or will create a video based on that in the future, and I'll hopefully remember to link it up in the cards up here if you're interested. But assuming you've got your podcast episodes ready to go, I would then recommend you using a media host. Now, the media host of choice for me is Buzzsprout because it offers a fantastic service. It offers a huge range of resources to help you get started podcasting, but not only that, it is really supportive when you're trying to link your podcast to the podcast directories, and that is a really important step. Now, something that's also been a little bit of a hurdle for us with getting 100 listens or more for the Going In Deep podcast is the fact that when we pushed the live button and went to launch the podcast itself, Apple actually suspended the Apple Connect app, or I say suspended, what they've done is they've had an update for all things podcasting, which I'm sure you're aware of if you're listening to this at the time of launch, or they're already embedded and not necessarily a new thing, those being monetization and other channel solutions that podcasts now have the ability to do. But because of that, we haven't been able to get our podcast into Apple. So I think it's an even better result for us to have got that 100 listens, because we've been listed in 2 of the big 3 podcast distribution services, that being Spotify and Google, as well as some of the other distributors that we can connect to via Buzzsprout. Now, what we needed to do is have at least one podcast episode live to link it to these various players using our RSS feed. And again, Buzzsprout provides you a huge range of instructions on how to do this. But a really key factor, I believe, in us hitting that 100 download mark is the fact that we didn't launch with just one episode or one trailer for the podcast. We launched with 3 episodes, which allowed our audience, if they were interested, having gotten them to come over and listen to start with, to go down and consume other episodes. It also helped in the fact that when somebody come across to the podcast, they could have a look at some of the different subject matters and choose which topic was of interest to them. So a top tip for you is don't just launch with one episode, launch with a few. I think 3 is a good number to give your audience a flavour of what it is that you're going to be talking about and why they should bother listening and subscribing to your show. Before we even launched the podcast, Ben and Ollie had been working away to record these episodes, so we already have a few episodes in the bank that are already ready and scheduled for us to release. So if you do have the opportunity to record more than one episode and get yourself prepared before launching, I would highly recommend it. Now, another thing that we were able to do, and some great ideas that both Ollie and Ben already had, was to utilise the platforms that they were already popular on. So Ollie is an amazing virtual chocolatier, and if you haven't checked out Ollie the Choc's channel, then certainly go ahead and see what he's up to, because he's doing amazing things in the world of chocolate. And Ben is not only a business owner in the world of fitness, who has achieved many great things and works bloody hard in some of the challenges that he sets himself, but he's also moved into the mindset space, so helping people get in the right position to achieve those goals that they're setting. Now, I'm going to link to both Ollie and Ben's channels in the show notes, but this is my YouTube channel, so it's not show notes, it will be the description and also at the end of this video. So if you're keen to find out more about those two guys, then certainly go and check out their channels. But I digress. They utilised their following that they've already got on Instagram and various social media platforms by giving people a little bit of a teaser that they were thinking about doing a podcast. They built a bit of excitement before the podcast was actually launched, which then helped to get people over once we revealed that we were live on Spotify and Google. As well as that, they even did a live recording of one of the future episodes to whet the appetite for people who would potentially listen along and who've been able to see that live stream on Instagram. Now, it might be that you're not going to live stream some of your podcasts, but certainly getting some interest up and running before you launch your show is a fantastic idea. And the final step and the final piece of advice that I've got for you in getting your first 100 listens for your new podcast is to shout about the fine work that you've done. You've put all that hard work and effort and passion and hours of preparation, editing, and you're super proud about launching your podcast, so why wouldn't you be shouting from the rooftops? Now, you might be thinking, Liam, I'm not confident on camera and I'm certainly not going to be starting YouTube. This is a podcast. I want to make an audio only product. Then not to worry. You can still create a wealth of content from your podcast, whether that be taking a transcription, taking single quotes from things that have been said in the show, combining that with your artwork to push those out in a variety of different social media posts. And one of the most effective ways that I believe that you can capture somebody's attention is by using a short video. Now, I know I just mentioned that you're not to worry if you don't want to get on camera and necessarily deliver some of your podcast in front of the camera like I'm speaking now, or going live like Ollie and Ben did. What you can do is you can take part of the podcast recording, and especially if you're using the Buzzsprout Media host, it allows you to take a 60-minute segment and turn that into an audio teaser. You can use your logo or upload an image and then have the little WAV file popping up on the audio teaser, which gives the viewer who's scrolling through social media something different to look at and a little bit of a snippet about your show. Now, we've also gone a step further to that with the Going In Deep podcast, and we've created more of a visual soundbite. So still utilising the 60-second clips that Buzzsprout have provided us, but doing a little bit of extra work in the video editor to add some extra imagery on the podcast recording itself. Now, I'm going to go into much more detail on how to create this kind of thing in a later video. So if you're keen to see that, then once I've created it, I'll try and link it up here, or simply go to my channel, press subscribe, and I'm sure that'll pop up once I've recorded it. So I hope these tips have helped you. If you have any further questions, I'd love to hear them below. I hope that the planning phase of your podcast is going from strength to strength. And if I can be of any further help, do let me know and I'll be pleased to pass on my knowledge and understanding and experiences I've had over the last few years podcasting. Now, don't forget to go and check out Ollie and Ben's channels over here. And if you want to find out more about podcasting, then this video over here is the one for you.